Symphony that we're about to play for you after the intermission was presented on a mega concert that included also the premiere of the Fifth Symphony, 2 movements of his Mass in C, his Fourth Piano Concerto, the concert aria A Perfido, a few keyboard improvisations, and the choral fantasy. So, you might even say that by today's concert, I would say, is maybe even a little bit skimpy by comparison to what folks in Beethoven's day might have been used to. Where did you place for me to go? I'll go over here. Right. So we are going to play this Sixth Symphony for you after intermission, but there is a connection between these 2 symphonies. The one we just played for you, with all of its lightness and good humor, reveals nothing of the composer's very depressed state of mind when he was writing it, as he was coming to terms with his encroaching deafness. He was, at the time, staying in Heiligenstadt, which was, at that time anyway, a kind of rural, or at least bucolic tourist area on the outskirts of Vienna. And we know that few pupils of Beethoven's visited him there, and one remarked in particular that Beethoven would take long walks in the woods, and even with his failing hearing at the time, remarked upon hearing shepherds piping in the distance. And in fact, in the beginning of the last movement of the Sixth Symphony, we hear one of these shepherds' yodel tunes, which I'm sure was an inspiration that he received from his time staying even around Heiligenstadt. The Sixth Symphony is clearly his most programmatic work. It has bird calls at the end of the second movement. It has an evocation of a thunderstorm with rumbles in the timpani. We have this sort of almost a hoedown or a barn dance in the third movement. But even so, Beethoven was careful to write, in his own words, that this was more a depiction of feeling than it was painting. In other words, he wasn't necessarily trying to make the orchestra sound like nature in particular, but rather trying to capture in his music somehow the feeling of what it is emotionally like when we connect with the natural world. Now, the piece we're about to play for you, the Second Piano Concerto, is an early work written when he was in his early 20s, and in fact it comes before the first Piano Concerto in terms of when it was written. It has to do with the way it was published, and that's why we call it the Second Piano Concerto. But it was clearly modeled on the concertos of Mozart, with a rather long orchestral exposition at the beginning, which the piano eventually joins, playing sort of more lyrically. Has a rondo finale, but it's the second movement, I think, that is so distinct. It is beautifully evocative, and especially at the end of the second movement, very expressive, almost like a fantasy somehow. He says, with great expression. And it's the kind of movement that I think only Beethoven could have written, and it really gives us a sense of where he would take us emotionally, with the kind of depth and profundity that he was able to achieve in some of his later slow movements in his symphonies and chamber music, for example. So we're delighted to have the wonderful young American pianist Sean Chen as our soloist. He, by the way, is going to be performing a cadenza of his own creation in the first movement, so that's kind of, in a way, continuing the tradition of the composer-performer, in a way that Beethoven might have appreciated with all anyway. So we're delighted to have him here. We'll be, I'll go collect him, and we'll get the rest of the folks on stage. We'll be back with more Beethoven in just a moment.